Working with payments. So payments and billing API on Android is a really good way to monetize your application. However, the old billing API is rather difficult to use and it needs lots of configuration and additional code to make it actually work. So because of that, there are lots of alternative wrappers that help you to interact with the billing API and just makes your life a lot easier. However, each of them have different drawbacks and you just have to try out a few and find the one that fits your needs the best. In our case, we have went with reactive billing project, and it's a project that uses old version of RxJava, so we need to include that as well because we're using newer version of RxJava, and we need additional library called RxJava 2 interop that will help us glue the different RxJava interfaces together. So let's just take a look at the code, the things that we need to do. So first of all, let's start with the purchases service. So in this service, we'll do a few things. We'll call a method to initialize, to start a purchase. And we'll have a method that will monitor purchases if there are any active purchases, if there was any purchase completed while we were in the application. So let's start with the purchase premium method that will call initialize the purchase of our product. And the product we're gonna buy, as we'll later see, will be the extra features inside our application. Obviously, the features are rather simple. Usually, they wouldn't be worth paying for, but as I say, for the exercise, what we're gonna do. So, we start with the reactive billing library by calling getInstance, and then we initialize purchase by calling start purchase and premium SKU ID. That's the ID you should set up on Google Play Store. You'll need to get that configured. But for the sake of testing, we have used predetermined SKU that's used for testing, and it will automatically validate the purchase. So that's Android test purchase. In real application, you would need to change that with something my application premium product. So, and here we specify that it's just the product. It could be a subscription, but here's just one-time purchase. And then we execute it in our input-output scheduler and observe the result on Android main thread. So that will basically initialize the purchase, this one call. The other call is monitor purchases that will, first of all, retrieve the existing purchases from reactive billing library and billing API underneath it. And then it will monitor with this getInstance purchase flow if there are any purchases completed. And if there is a purchase that has been completed while we were in the application, it will record it, and basically it's going to be used for logging purposes. So back to monitor purchases. Here we are using observable concat method that will merge the output of a few observables. And it will do that in order. So first of all, it will output this false. So just because we want to provide quick default answer that there is no purchase available. Afterwards, this observable will be executed that will retrieve the purchases from the billing API. So it will do some modifications along the way. It will do some conversions, and then it will check if the purchases contain our premium SKU ID that we have defined before. And all of that is true. It will then return true value. And finally, the very last observable will keep monitoring if there are any new purchases being made. And that's going to be used in the case when all of these return false. Maybe we'll initialize purchase flow, and that will be completed while user is in the application. And at the very top, we have this RxJava interop library, converts old version of RxObservable, as you can see here, to the new version of observable. And it has this different type. It's now IO reactive X observable. So sometimes you'll get to use libraries that haven't been updated with the newest version of RxJava, so that's a very handy thing to know, that there are libraries that help you glue the old and the new code. So when we have all of this, we can start working with the purchases. So we will initialize purchases in the stock summary layout. And first of all, there's going to be a button. If there are no purchases made, it will show a message buy to enable, and it will call on purchase request on our stock view model. If the purchase is completed successfully and there is now an active premium subscription product being bought, this will layout be changed automatically to hide this button. This will become gone because summary is now active. And it will start showing the portfolio value. That's the extra feature we're talking about. So in the stock view model, there is on purchase request method that will initialize the purchase, and it will follow through the flow that we had analyzed before. And at the very top in our bind method, we have another observable that reacts to the changes of, the data and our model data. So it reacts to portfolio item changes, and it also now reacts to purchases. So whenever any of these change, using combine latest, we combine them into one portfolio list data object. So when the new data is received, we call with items to set the items, and we update the summary with the state that the purchase has been made or not. So we know if the feature now is active or not. And when all of that is done, basically we have a working purchase flow. You can take a look at it on our emulator. Initially, it just shows a button, buy to enable. We click it. However, the underlying billing system doesn't work on emulator, so that won't be possible to show in full in this video. So you'll need to get your actual device and run the code there to test it in full. Before we wrap up this lesson, it's very important that you communicate the value that you'll be providing when the user purchases the product or unlocks extra features. So before asking people to pay, it's very good to show some kind of dialogue, explanation that they'll get this thing or it will somehow help them. This will make the users more likely to complete the purchase. In the next video, we're gonna work with integrating analytics inside your code so you know what's happening in your application.